Yes, live, the Jimmy Doane Show, right now, infotainment for your pleasure and information. This is Jimmy Doane Show. We do this live twice a week, 4 o'clock Wednesdays and Sundays, right here on this Facebook channel. I'll post a timestamped copy, all the subjects timed out or time-stamped up on YouTube a couple hours from now, and we'll share it on Twitter. Feel free to share. We do not enforce copyrights. So today is the 23rd day of October 2019. I'm here with Dr. Doane in studio, in our various studios.
No, well, here
in
we're
various parts of the country.
Okay, good.
Yes. So what is happening?
I'll tell you, there is a lot of stuff happening.
Oh.
It's one of the little minor problem is that I usually start to do the show prep because it's every 3 or 4 days. So what I'll do is for Sunday's show, for instance, I'll usually start to gather some stuff tomorrow and Friday and then Saturday to get some news. But of course the news changes so rapidly that by the time you get to Saturday night to prepare for Sunday's show, I mean, a lot of the stuff is like,
it's all new, and then you have to do work.
Then you actually have to do work, and it's interesting because one of the things I did just before coming over here was one of my favorite websites is the Lou Rockwell.
Okay.
And Lou Rockwell, every day he's got a blog that is a continuing run of people that just kind of chime in and everything like that. But he also has a headline kind of thing. If you click at the top of the blog or whatever, it goes over to a bunch of things that are just like 8 or 10 stories, and most of them are opinion pieces, and they're brilliant. I mean, just brilliant. Yeah. And the problem is to try and, when I'm looking at some of the stuff that I've got here and I want to make some comments, well, these guys have already done way, way better than I ever did.
Well, let's rip them off. What did they say?
Well, I thought about it, but unfortunately, I was doing this, 8 minutes ago before the show, so didn't really have time to rip everything off. So anyway, in no particular order as usual, the G20 finance leaders there's, as you know, stable coins are the new thing. This is the blockchain kind of money or whatever it is.
The Libra.
Well, there are a lot of different ones now. And of course, and so apparently they've grouped them all into something called stable coins, which I think is kind of interesting because they're stable as opposed to regular money, which is unstable.
Well, they mean as opposed to regular cryptocurrency.
They do?
Yeah.
I didn't get that. They said that the stable coins could threaten the global finance system.
Yes. Well, see, what's happening, I mean, you're absolutely right. What's happening is, we talked about this a few weeks ago.
I know, we're going to talk about it again.
The lines are blurred right now, and there's a bunch of central banks who are getting very nervous.
Very nervous. It's interesting because what's happened is there's this whole, I don't know, nest of bees out there on the crypto business. And the central banks have one little bee sting, and they're totally panicking.
Well, it's because this is an actual threat to them.
Right, it is, and this is and even they recognize it, and they're trying to pull out all the stops to stop it, so to speak. And I thought it was interesting. So
it's
on
like
October,
a bunch of mobsters trying to warn people you don't need guns. Hey,
that's right. Would they kill you? Hey,
that's it.
Reported that the G20. An international forum for the governments and central bank governors, which of course, right away, these are the people that have the governments have the guns, and the central bank governors from 19 countries and the European Union have called on the International Monetary Fund to examine various macroeconomic implications of the global stablecoins, including monetary sovereignty issues and blah, blah, blah. So, you go through, thinking, well, yeah, okay, what does this, what does all this mean? It means, God, for God's sakes, is there any way we can not have people use Bitcoin or
the Libra or something,
or the Libra,
any alternative to the?
Well, it does, as we talked about. We did talk about. Apparently, there are some of the heavy hitters that were going to back the Libra has chickened out. 7. Is that right? Is that? That's 7 of them backed out?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Out of how many?
I don't know.
There were a lot of them in there, but some of the big ones are. Well, of course, Facebook is still in on it, and they're big. But I'm talking about the bank cards people that were going to be in on it.
Yeah.
And that scared the crap out of a lot of people. And apparently, they walked into there and said, okay.
And some of the other big tech players. Well, yeah. Well, this is a huge power struggle in the world right now.
Right.
The way that I see it is, Facebook is trying to take some control, trying to make some money, and maybe they're just trying to do business. Who knows? But it undermines all the central banks' efforts to devalue their currencies,
right,
and also to promote inflation.
Right. Well, inflation. The banks love inflation because they get to scoop it off the top.
Right.
They get their money, and then the rest of us get what's left over, which means the prices go up.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
Not for them.
The further down you are the chain, the worse you're hit. But
well, of course, what they do is they further report the nations have agreed. The nations, of course, these are the governments, have agreed that global acceptance of stablecoins will give rise to a set of serious public policy and regulatory risk. Well, yeah, the regulatory risk, I can understand that. I mean, wait a minute, we've been regulating this for 100 years, and look at the bang-up job we've done. So such risk, and of course, here comes the fear-mongering, including particularly those related to money laundering, illicit finance, consumer and investor protection.
Child sex trafficking.
That's it. So that's right. Need to evaluate it and appropriately, whatever. The Bank of Japan's governor said the G20 summit will begin with a debate regarding current stablecoin regulations, which apparently there are none.
Well, sure. There's no such thing as one yet.
Right. Well, one of the reasons is this. It's like trying to grab smoke. I mean, it's.
Well, it's interesting, but yeah, because the powers are divided among the nations that contain the basket of currencies. So. There's individual powers within the greater power structure, but the whole thing is still subject to the reliance on central banks' money, though. That's the thing that I'm not entirely sure it's going to upend the whole system, because what I guess is that they'll do something like they'll say, listen, Facebook, we're going to require that your Libra have some inflation or something. They'll do something.
But how are they going to do it? I mean, how would you do it?
I don't know. You could just say, well, we want you to, make it so that there is no limit to the number of coins or something. Yeah, whatever. I mean, digitally speaking. And I just don't think that they're going to allow Facebook into that.
They're certainly going to try not to allow, because they have the guns, of course.
Right.
But I thought that it was, it's interesting that people that are in on this, that want all these whatever kind of regulations they want, are called the Financial Stability Board and the Financial Action Task Force. So and these are people, I guess, in nice ties and $1,000 suits that meet and gather around a table and decide stuff.
Sure.
And
this is monetary policy.
And of course this is to protect us from money. The thing about it is, when you're talking about, it's got to be I guess what they're worried about is bypassing their local currency.
Right.
Now, and this happened, in fact, for a while. I was hearing stories coming out of Venezuela before the big crash. I don't know if they still do it, but you can actually buy stuff. There's a Bitcoin to Bitcoin exchange. That is, if you want an orange, it's 0.001 Bitcoin. It's not it's not any of their money.
It doesn't go in.
And there's nothing you can do about it. If you hold your phone up to somebody else's and they have something they can spend on milk or something else that bypasses completely their central bank, I can understand why they might be a little nervous.
Right. And I mean, that's exactly what's happening. Yeah. Obviously, the central banks are destroying the value of their currencies. And so you want a currency that's a store of value. That's sort of one of the big characteristics of it. And so you can see the appeal of it. It's interesting that one of the central bankers' comments I heard was, well, you don't need that.
Yeah.
You don't need it. Well, then what the hell are we doing it for?
Yeah. Well, what are you worried about?
Right. If nobody needs it, then they won't use it.
Then they won't count. That's right. If nobody needs it, So anyway, they some emerging countries have concerns on what would happen if stablecoins backed by a huge customer base became widely used and accepted. Well, yeah, I can understand why. If you happen to be the central bank of some emerging country,
sure,
and you want to have control over your people, and you don't.
Right.
And that's because ultimately the control, ultimately the control is out of a point of a gun, but the money is usually the easiest way to do it.
It's a huge, huge factor, and it allows a lot of wealth transfer that's hidden. So
As well it should be.
No, I mean, away from the currency and into the pockets of the people who are producing. The
Oh, right. Oh, those guys, yeah.
Yeah. And so, no, I'm with you. And I think that all transactions, there's a lot of secrecy that's happening right now and coming about. There's a lot of ways you can transfer money around to your various crypto wallets. And I don't know that anybody ever knows anything about it. It doesn't.
No, I don't think they do. They said, somebody said, I was reading someplace, they said, well, they can track it. Well, I'm wondering about that. I mean, you got your little big long number that's you, and somebody was saying, and if it was that easy to track, I don't think they'd be worried about it.
Well, and also, if it was that easy to track, it would seem like it'd be easier to crack.
Right.
And it's not that easy.
But the point is that in many instances, when they call, for instance, the Wasso brothers or whatever were the twins that got started.
Winklevoss. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Winklevoss, right. And I think they're multi-billionaires in terms of bitcoins.
Yeah.
Because they got them at 1/10 of a cent each or something.
Yeah.
And that's all well and good. But when you say billionaire, what you're talking about is you're a billionaire in dollars.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do? Once you start to spend the dollars on something, that's, then you bring it out into the open at that point.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's going to be a lot of ways to exchange money that people haven't really thought of. And
I agree with you.
I think that stuff like what Peter Schiff is doing with just buy a bunch of gold, we'll keep it in a central vault somewhere,
right.
and then we'll give you a credit card or a debit card, which chips off little pieces electronically. Once you get to a certain amount, then we take that ounce or gram.
Well, right now, of course, as unstable as some of the currencies are, Zimbabwe and other these places that are having 1,000 and 2,000% inflation, the volatility, for instance, of the Bitcoin and some of the others is phenomenal. I mean, it gets at 20-30% in a day or two.
Right. And Schiff still points out nobody gets paid in Bitcoin. Nobody has contracts in Bitcoin because they fluctuate too fast.
Right.
You can't count on your revenue if you're going to do that. And so you can't do that yet. And that may always be the case with those coins. And that's why they're coming up with this stable coin, which it's based on, obviously, central bank currencies. So it'll fluctuate a little bit because those central bank currencies fluctuate, but I don't think they're going to put the Zimbabwe dollar in there.
No, I don't think so.
Any of the real volatile ones. They'll use the top 5 or 7.
Well, one of the little minor problems, of course, is, and you're right, the top 5 or 7. One of the problems, of course, with so many of the currencies is they're backed solely and 100% by the dollar, which means if you use that in the basket, you're really using dollars in the basket.
Well, but the top 5 or 7 aren't. I mean, the top they're.
No, I know that's right. That's what I'm saying. If you use some of the others, now what's interesting right now, of course, is that out of the G7 or whatever it is, right now, aren't they all using euros, with the exception of England?
Yeah.
So,
but you've got the yuan and
that's true.
The Swiss franc is still
that's right
there, and then
the Japanese
yen is still there and powerful and prevalent, and then there's the dollar, and I think let's see, that's 4. I think there's one more out there that has some market share. I'm just not thinking of it. The ruble. Maybe the Russian.
Yeah, the Russian. That's the rubbish.
Yeah. So
the Russian rubbish, yes.
Right. So
we'll get those in there.
There you go.
Well, I agree. But it's just interesting that the people that for the last 100 years have had more or less an ongoing and continuing control and getting rich beyond Croesus, now are seeing their empire starting to dissolve. And of course, they brought it on themselves. When you think about it, a nickel Coke now is $1, and because of the depreciation, inflation on our dollars and so forth.
Yeah.
So,
well, and of course they're different people. I mean, they're
no, I understand that, but the system, so to speak, has been handed down.
Yes.
As
Well, it was a corrupt system from the beginning,
right?
And it should be destroyed, and hopefully the market will find ways around whatever these regulators come up with.
The market ultimately finds a way around. The market is
We
all
just hope
powerful.
It happens faster rather rather than slower. And it may, especially if there's a currency crisis.
Well, one of the things that's the problem with so much of this, in a more sane world, the adjustments would be little minute and ongoing. What happens is the powers that be get in and hold back the changes until it all comes crashing down in one big thing, and and that's what's going to happen this time. You ask Peter Schiff or somebody, it's it's not looking too good. It might happen even in my lifetime. Hard to believe. So.
Before we get off of Facebook, they're coming after him. I mean, you've seen.
I saw the thing. They are really coming after him, and the headline that I saw was he smirked.
Oh, which one are you talking about?
When he was testifying the other day, and
okay,
they hauled his ass up there.
Yeah,
and Maxine Waters, for God's sakes, was all over him.
Well, I don't think that was Maxine Waters. That was at least like the person that I saw wasn't Maxine Waters, but it was somebody who looked a lot like her. There was another representative, and just jumped his shit, and it was the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much Maxine. I think if you look it up,
it was interesting.
Of all the people.
Yeah, well, it was just interesting that she's calling him out for racism.
Oh yeah.
And he's just sitting there like, wait, what? And he can't even get a word in edgewise.
No, that's right.
And she's coming down like a ton of bricks. And of course, you got people like Elizabeth Warren out there saying, break him up.
Right.
He's a billionaire, doesn't deserve it. And that representative just said, go back and do your homework. And then he must think he's in third grade again.
Well, the other thing that's interesting is that here's a guy who's could buy all of them off easily, no problem. But he has to sit there and listen because they got guns. And he has to sit there and listen to these idiots lambast him. I mean, he must be thinking, what the hell is, what is the world coming to?
Seriously. She goes, well, who do you have? He's something about a civil rights task force. And she's like, well, who do you have on that? And he's like, well, Sandberg. And she's like, whoa, wait a minute. You're going to have to do better than that. Like, what? Where's that coming from? She's just like, she's like, I know her. And she's not going to do. Like, what? You haven't even seen the first proposal. I mean, nothing.
No, it is. And I thought for once, when I saw what has happened with him just recently, like for instance, we talked about this for a moment about they're not going to. The big deal they're worried about is him censoring or not censoring the ads, the political ads for the upcoming. And he says, well, we don't do that. It's not our job to fact check the campaign ads.
Right.
They can put them on there, and if they pack of liars, everybody will figure it out.
Right.
And of course, right away, Congress said, no. We have to have an oversight committee that will fact check these ads to make sure that there's no lies in there.
Right.
And I'm thinking,
this is just weird because the whole political advertising has always been exempt from truth in advertising.
Well, in fact, politics has been pretty much exempt from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has said in the past, that's a political decision.
Yeah.
We're not involved in
Political question.
Political question. And so when you see that, that's a state thing. Or if it is,
Yeah, or it's nobody's thing.
Or it's nobody's. Well, the states can do anything they want, actually, when you come
that's true.
But technically they can. So, but the deal is when you see these people meddling around in this stuff, I really have to laugh in a way, although it's tragic because they can, when all else, they can muddy the waters totally. And for them to actually think that they could look at an ad. And now an ad, remember, these are 30-second or 60-second.
Yeah, well, they don't think that. Like you said, this is just. What were you going to say, that they could look at an ad and tell whether it's fake or real?
Well, not only that, but if there's one thing that's fake in there, or an exaggeration,
right?
Or so.
Well, we're way past that at this point.
Okay.
We're at the point of where the people up there and the representatives have decided that they are in control, and whatever they say goes, and they can censor speech as long as it's the right speech that they're censoring. And I do mean the
one
right
speech you're not supposed to censor. The one is political speech.
Right. Well, everybody's off to the races with speech at this point. I've got a story when we get to it on that exact issue, which is another corner we're turning. So
okay. Well, let's move along then and get to that. Now, I did pull up some stuff, and I'm not going to talk about it much because it is so confusing. It's like I don't know, the spaghetti monster or something. That's Brexit. what is Brexit is? Are we doing it? No, I mean there are battles going back and forth. They delayed it. Now they've got to wait another week, and now or is it January 31st, or we don't know. And Boris is saying, well, no, I'm going to do it anyway. And
it's a fight between the Prime Minister and the Parliament, it seems to me, and everybody keeps pulling out a new card. But I still think it's all coming down in the next couple of weeks, in the next week actually. By the 31st was supposed to be the original or the secondary hard Brexit deadline, and so we'll see if they get some more extension or if the whole thing blows up. It's still, anything could happen.
Yeah, that's the thing. So when I was reading through this, and I thought, am I going to talk about this today? And I said, I don't have a clue really what's, because it's fluctuating so rapidly.
Yes.
It's like the battle lines are going back and forth all the time. Every day something new.
Well, and there's absolutely no clear legal guidance for lay people.
That's the other thing, right?
It's like everybody's using these. Well, Rule 37 says now
they have
we can
this thing
pass
called
this.
the WAB, the Withdrawal Agreement Bill. And apparently that has some, Brussels has to do, as we said last time, there's 27 people, 27 countries and they're supposed to agree on something, and, good luck.
Yeah, this is a wait and see on that.
Okay, well, moving along. Do we care at all that Mitt Romney had a secret Twitter account?
I don't care.
I don't care either. I thought it was genius. Personally, I think it was great. He had this account, which, and of course, it's funny that when you think about Hillary's secret server and everything, this is the kind of stuff that goes on. But I thought it says his altered name was Pierre Delecto, which apparently translates into something, NSFW or whatever.
Okay.
But in his 2012 presidential campaign, and what he did was he was trolling the opposition and people that liked him, and then he would respond. It reminds me, years ago, one of the first blogs I ever saw. This was way years ago when we're still on AOL, with dial-up lines and everything. There was a guy that he said he was Steve Jobs.
Okay.
And he called himself Fake Steve Jobs. And almost every day he would write something about Apple and everything. And it was just hilariously funny. It was dead nuts on the money and everything else. And I think finally, after a while, the real Steve Jobs said, "Wait, you can't keep this up." Or so I forget what it was.
Right.
It faded out. But in the meantime, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But everybody pretty much knew that it was. Now, when you see this particular guy, Delecto, come in and start to do all this stuff because he was responding and everything, and on whose side he was and so forth. Well, okay, that's fine. So it was Mitt Romney. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should realize that at least half of the accounts on all those things are fake.
Yeah.
And that means that they're somebody else's second account.
Right.
Or third account.
Yeah.
And so you got to figure. And we know from the very beginning. I remember Engineer Eric had an identity called Erica Sohot, and it was this bisexual young girl or something.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and we just did it as a lark because it was right when the chat rooms first came up. This was 1995.
Oh, yeah.
And what we realized was if you went into a chat room with any sort of profile like that, you were just swarmed and bombarded with questions in there. It was just kind of funny that, I'm sure you didn't do anything with it, but I got to believe that a lot of people have these things. Someone came out the other day and said half of Trump's accounts half of Trump's Twitter followers are fake accounts. Well, they're probably Democrats or just people who
knows?
I mean, yeah, it's just.
Yeah, and of course what you can do. You do know, of course, you can buy those things. You can buy
10,000 accounts.
10,000 accounts or whatever, for money. They'll actually do it. So what does that mean?
It means don't trust anything. You have to. It's got to the point where even Snopes has come under question a lot. Oh, it's way. I busted them.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, like a couple of years
I didn't
ago.
know that.
Yeah, there was some story, and I knew the absolute truth of it, and I went on Snopes, and they had a different perspective and a ridiculous explanation, and I thought, well, that's just. I knew for some reason it was a legal thing or something, and I thought. That's crazy. And I thought, well, I can't trust them anymore. And since then, like you said, all those fact verification websites, now you have to know what side they're on. You know, is it PolitiFact or is it Snopes? Or
Well,
is it...
Wikipedia is another one that apparently,
Yeah, well-
they had to shut off the anonymous people coming in and making changes. Because
Yeah.
that you would see some of these things that it'd be changed and then 5 minutes later be changed and again and on somebody's bio or whatever it
Yeah.
was. And they finally had to shut it and get only certified people, which of course who certifies whom, and I don't know.
Yeah, well, actually, I signed up to be a certified person.
Did you?
Yeah, and there's a little procedure.
Ooh, I
yeah,
don't
exactly.
know.
There's a little procedure that you go through, and you have to comment and correct certain people's things a few times, or 5 submissions or something like that, and then they have a little process, but it's not difficult or complicated
Right.
or insurmountable in any way. I'm sure.
Well, the one thing that they do in Wikipedia is they have all the citations.
Right. Well, and that's a critical part of it. But
Right.
then look, it was very useful, obviously, to set up, and I don't think it's very harmful. I mean, you see stuff like the other day somebody changed LeBron James' profile to say
Yeah.
communist agent.
Right. Yeah.
Like, everybody knows that's not true, but
Right.
sure. But then they changed it back, and
Of course.
what can you do?
Didn't take long. Well, okay, that's moving along.
Okay.
Now, another thing, I don't know if I should maybe hold this under a light note. Have you heard of Zoe?
Zoe.
Zoe, the emotional support puppy.
Oh.
Does this matter at all?
No.
I thought this was hysterical. The San Francisco 49ers, okay, this is a football team, right? And they beat the crap out of everybody. They have got this emotional support puppy that helps them with their game.
With
and
the beatings.
It's a little pheasant, and the dog loves everybody, and they get emotional support, I guess, before they go out and kill the other guys.
Yeah.
But I just thought this was great that when you talk about emotional support, because people bring their ostrich or whatever it is on the
Yeah.
airplane, and here's the team's emotional support puppy. I'm thinking this
They're just using that as an excuse to get the dog around or something.
it relieves stress, providing them with a cheerful break and unconditional love.
Sure.
So it's a stress
Well,
relief.
who knows? Maybe some of them are PTSD or something.
God,
But
I'll tell you.
to me, I like better than that. There is a dog in college football that's trained to go pick up the kicking tee.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and that's
My
kinda
God,
cool.
That is really great. It's just you have the kickoff and then
Yeah.
go. Phew,
Yeah,
phew.
right out there.
It's like a ball dog, only it's
Yeah.
a T dog.
Exactly.
When they have ball boys or something like that. Okay, now let's hear some more about what I'd like to, when we're talking about the socialists, the democratic socialists and so forth that are planning on taking over another fundamental change in the United States. They might want to just take a quick glance. No, you don't have to go any depth. Go down to Venezuela.
Oh yes.
Venezuela's water system
We
is
will go-
collapsing.
Here, we'll go down there.
It is collapsing. The brick shack that on the outskirts of Venezuela's capital is crowded with tubs, jugs, and buckets. The water they hold must last a family of 8 for a week, but it's not enough for frequent washing or flushing, so the kitchen is filled with greasy pots and the house smells of stale urine. Wait a minute, this is Venezuela, the richest country, 20, 30 years ago, the richest country, bar none, in South America, bar none. And none of the water is treated, and the big thing that is killing, and actually this is one of the things that has killed people in Africa for years. In fact, one of the things that hurt our soldiers in Civil War is diarrhea. Diarrhea will kill you.
Sure.
So this is what has become an absolute epidemic in Venezuela is diarrhea. And what one lady said, the mother said, we practically live in the bathroom. And we've got this, my daughter is 8 months pregnant, and she's going to the bathroom all the time. And so the crumbling economy and collapse of even basic state infrastructure means water comes irregularly, and drinking is increasingly a risky gamble. The infant mortality has gone up 6 times to whatever it was than it was 15 years ago. And right now, the biggest health risk is water and sanitation. So what happened, of course, was that as soon as they took over Maduro, whoever it was that took over, it was Chavez that took over the oil thing, and it all tanked. This is when everything started to go. Spokesman for the hydro capital, Venezuela's water ministry, and the Ministry of Information are not responding to any questions, which figures. The thing about this is, Bernie, hey guys, you want to do a fundamental change? Let's go and look, just go glance in your lifetime. When you were not even, we're not talking when you were a teenager, we're talking when you were 50 years old. If you'd gone down to Venezuela when you were 50, and then go down there today and see the difference. And this is what you want for us, basically.
Yeah, I don't think they see that. I think
how can you not?
I know. Well, I'm with you. Well, here's what they think. I gotta believe people like Sean Penn and Chomsky and whoever else have convinced themselves that it was the collapse of the oil price from $100 to $50.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, exactly. My thought is, well, that was 10 years ago or so, and what have you done since then? And the free market fixes things.
Absolutely.
And central planning does not. And so
it fixed it here during our oil crisis when they put on the wage and price controls for gas, big long lines, and then finally they said, no, forget it. And the lines disappeared overnight because the market said, well, look, I'm willing to pay 60 cents.
Right. And they'd probably point to Flint, Michigan and say, well, look, in a free economy, you don't even have good
well, there's not. You got to know that's not. So if you look, you don't have to look too deep. If you just scrape away the top layer, you'll find it's a government failure.
Well, right. I'm with you. It has to be.
Has to be.
Because the market, what it does is fills people's needs.
Yeah.
And so if there's a need, then people will move in.
The other thing about this is I was reading, and additionally in this article, apparently, of all the things, bottled water is like unavailable.
Down there?
Yeah, down there. But unavailable. I mean, and you think... if the only thing you've got is to drink sewage, I mean, what do you think? And this is from the richest country 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it was.
It's quite remarkable that they've been able to drag it down that far, but
without pitchforks and firebrands. I mean,
central planning. This is all central planning. This is because you have one guy who obviously can't make all the decisions.
Right.
And there's a lot of decisions that have to be made in an economy that size.
Well, you think about it, I don't know what the population of Venezuela is, but let's assume for the moment that it's 60, 70 million.
Yeah.
That's 67 million decisions a day.
Yes.
An hour. A minute.
Yeah.
So, good luck on that. I just, when I think about our erstwhile Democrat candidates up here talking about this kind of stuff, and as I said, are you how blind can you, those people, if they're that blind that something this serious, this big, it's like, to me, it's
like the power outages in California.
Well, or you're in Washington D.C. and the 20 kiloton bomb explodes over Baltimore, and you say, what bomb?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what? I didn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I just.
Yes. Well, I have to say, today's Jimmy Doane show brought to you by LifeStraw. LifeStraw is LifeStraw water filter, a must carry for camping, emergencies, and travel to Venezuela. Filters up to 1,000 liters of contaminated water with no iodine, no chlorine, no moving parts, no batteries, and no permit required. Weighs just 2 ounces for ultra portability, has a high flow rate so you can drink directly from the source. You can just stick this thing into contaminated water and drink. And it uses advanced membrane technology to remove 99.999% of waterborne bacteria and 99.9% of waterborne protozoan parasites, and filters up to 0.2 microns, which surpasses EPA filter standards. But does it keep you from getting sick? I don't know. None of those things make any sense. Those are just like random numbers. Like, what about the non-protozoan parasites?
Well, the other thing that I think is
available on Amazon for 1.7 million bolivars. There, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Right. You can imagine if you go into Venezuela and you have a suitcase full of these things and they confiscate them. You probably couldn't get them out of the country. I just would like to think that if you bought one of these, you might want to just as a trial while you're near your house.
Right. Go out there and
suck up some of your muddy water.
Yeah.
And see if it works, but stand by for.
Yeah.
And see.
Well, it's weird. It says reduces 99.999% of waterborne bacteria. Well, how much does the 0.0001% contribute to your getting sick?
Well, not only that, how long does it take to become 1%? bacteria multiply pretty quick.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So you
I don't
only
know.
have to. It has to filter out all but 2.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
At the rate of expansion.
apparently, the membrane system is built so that the bacteria are larger than the membrane.
No, I understand that. It's,
Yeah.
it's like the.
It's a filter.
Yeah. Well, it's what do they call that? That kind of they have water filters like that.
Okay.
Not isotropic. It's called whatever it is. Forget it. I don't know. Okay, now our erstwhile lawmakers are on the march again. Pelosi and other U.S. lawmakers arrive in Jordan, and they're going to talk about Syria.
In Jordan.
Yeah, which is next door to Syria.
Yeah.
So they met with the king,
Right.
and so the other U.S. lawmakers announced late Saturday that they have arrived in Jordan for meetings with King Abdullah II and other officials regarding the situation in Syria. They have gone. Now, one of the things you have to realize is that foreign affairs, even though they might have foreign affairs committees and that kind of thing, that basically they're not supposed to meddle in that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's the president that does that sort of
Yeah, well, there is a foreign affairs committee, I'm sure, in each house.
No, there is. But they have hearings on stuff that the executive branch. I don't think that independently that they can start to do stuff.
Yeah, that's the Hatch Act, isn't it? Isn't that the
Something,
whole
one of those.
thing that?
Yeah. Although it is I love this. They call it a bipartisan delegation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Republican.
The dog is.
No, well, not quite. It's a Republican, Mac Thornberry of Texas, and he's the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, and of course he went along and he's not going to seek re-election. So whatever he does, he don't care.
Right.
It's interesting. As Pelosi said, our delegation has been engaged in vital discussions about the impact of regional stability and dangerous opening that has provided to ISIS, Iran, and Russia. What's interesting is it is not bad. Apparently it's not too bad to have a fact-finding mission from the Foreign Affairs Committee and some other people.
It sounds like an investigation about your political opponents to me.
Yeah, well, that's right. But the thing is, you're not supposed to have people in the delegation that are from the currency control or the railroad commission. It's only people that are going to rule on this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And apparently they got a couple of people that went over there that have nothing to do with any of this stuff. They were committee heads. They want to go for the ride.
To me, I let go do whatever y'all want to do. Investigate whatever you want. Whoever you want, from whatever committee, or bring all your family. I don't care. That we should be able to sustain those types of trips and scrutiny. There shouldn't be anything that they can find. Now, if they go over there and start making promises that they can't actually fulfill,
right?
Things pledging the United States to certain things, and then okay, that's overstepping.
Now, let me ask you this. We've heard the quid pro quo, QPR, whatever it is. Now, so think about it. You've got this delegation from the United States. These people are being treated like royalty.
Sure.
You know that they're treated like royalty. Now, what do you think that the King of Jordan or these other people, when they say, go out there and wine and dine these people, because,
exactly.
They may give us something.
That's right.
I'm sorry, is this a quid pro quo?
This is exactly what we talked about, and why it's all negotiation. Everybody knows they're going over there to get something,
right?
And they're going over there to give something,
right?
Everybody knows that. If you don't know that, then you don't know what's going on. That's what's happening. And sure, they want to be told negative things about the current administration or whatever it is,
right?
And so, look, but again, my thought is everybody should be able to do this stuff, and it won't be
it's just interesting to me that they, when they're screaming and hollering about.
Oh yeah, no, it's total double standard.
Yeah,
total,
really,
absolutely.
I mean, it gives hypocrisy a bad name.
It totally does. It's ridiculous how hypocritical they are. But they don't even think of it like that.
No, I know they don't.
From their perspective,
it was not
it's
in
all
this
politics.
article. I saw the first thing I said was, "Wait a minute.
Yeah,
this is exactly what you were." But nobody. It was not in the article. Nobody said a thing about it.
No, what are you saying? No, it's that's the very first rule of getting someone else in trouble is you're insulated.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I should go back to this. We talked about the Facebook should ban the campaign ads. Did we just do that?
Yes.
Okay, I did want to mention one other thing, and that is that Elizabeth Warren is convinced that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg endorses Trump because he's allowing the campaign license.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
Okay, good. All right. Now here we're coming. Here's some of the big news. As Halloween approaches, thousands of witches will cast a binding spell on Donald Trump tomorrow. I think it is. Day after tomorrow.
Right.
Day after tomorrow.
A little late, 3 years in. I mean,
what can I say? Unlike a curse or a hex or a binding spell is not meant to cause harm. Rather, the witches hope to prevent President Trump from doing harm to the United States by his actions. The ritual calls for the use of an unflattering photo of Trump, a tarot card, a stub of an orange candle, a pin, and a feather. Republicans then call on the heavenly hosts, demons of the infernal realms, and spirits of the ancestors to bind Trump so that his malignant works may fail utterly. So
finally they're taking a scientific approach.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I thought, and apparently they've got literally thousands of witches all over the road, and they're going to interact directly with the demon entities in this ritual conducted on October 25th. Now, I mean, this is good.
Like I said, it's about time.
Yeah. I mean, what took you so long?
Yeah. Somebody should take it up with the International Council of Witches.
Okay, next item I've got here.
Some of them could lose their licenses.
That's another thing, right? How? That's right. And I wonder if the warlocks or whatever, what are the guys called?
Yeah.
Okay, are going to be involved in this. I don't know. On the climate front.
Okay.
The hole in the ozone is now the smallest it's ever been.
Okay.
They did say the hole fluctuates in size annually and is usually largest during the coldest months in the southern hemisphere. Latest observations of space have shown that it now covers less than it's about half of what it actually gets down to normally, and it's the smallest it's ever been that they can measure.
Yeah, when you say the smallest it's ever been, I don't even think we knew that there was an ozone layer.
No, we didn't
until like 1985.
Well, it was whenever of course, this is when you were running outside with your aerosol things.
But I mean, literally, I don't think they made any measurements of the ozone hole until the mid-'80s.
Could have been. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Atmosphere, you're going to measure something, and that's like running outside today and measuring the temperature and predicting.
Well, the main thing what was so funny about this was the major reason why they banned the aerosols, I think, was because of the ozone layer.
Yeah.
And what's funny, and they, because the problem was that the hydrocarbons get in the atmosphere and last for millions of years, and we're doomed. And I'm sitting here, wait a minute, it's been since last Thursday that this ban has been on, or whatever, in geologic times.
Well, this is another hobgoblin like acid rain.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember acid rain?
Oh yeah.
We were told the planet was going to be devastated. We were shown pictures of forests that were deteriorating, that were being burned to death. Because of acid rain,
yeah.
and this was something we could expect to see more often, all the time now, especially up in the north. And
trees dying.
Seriously, everywhere. They were telling us, and it'll acidify the oceans and everything. And but I guess that didn't happen, and so they wonder why we don't. Why we're a bit skeptical.
A bit skeptical.
Just a bit.
And it's what's interesting, of course, is it's a sucker born every minute.
Yes, well, that's the whole point.
That's the whole point.
Yes.
Yes, and it's because
you start out with a clean slate.
The Food Drug Administration regularly comes out with stuff that's, what we told you last week. No, it's the food pyramid is sideways today, and it's this, and it's going to go, and now it's
upside down.
And
upside
it's not
down.
even sure. It's a three-dimensional pyramid, and what happened was we didn't realize it was a fourth dimension.
Yeah.
So it's just
sure.
Okay, now the other thing that I've got, two more things that I've got here real quick before we get. I did not realize this, but it says Vietnam Airlines economy versus premium economy. Is it worth upgrading? This is a very lengthy article on the difference between premium economy and in Vietnamese airlines. Okay.
Right.
Wait a minute. We're talking about commie Vietnam, right? We're talking about people that we bomb the crap out of the whole. We're talking about a country that's the size of I don't even think it's as big as Florida is, and I don't even know how big it is.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But it's all landmines still exploding, whatever it is, and yet they have got a fairly extensive airline.
Well, I mean, you got to have one.
No, but I mean, they're flying the plane that they're flying. I forgot which one it was here, but it's one of the new big ones, big, comfortable, whatever it is, plane.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know. Vietnam has its own airline after we destroyed the place more. I mean, I think it's great. I really think it. But it's interesting that this whole article, very lengthy article, was on whether should you pay the extra money to go to the upgrade to the premium economy.
Boy, talking about obscure sources you're reading there.
Well, it's just, to me, what's amazing to me is that here's a country that literally was devastated 30 years ago, 40 years ago, what it devastated. And now what we're worried about is, should I fly Vietnamese airline premium economy or just regular economy? And they were talking about the differences were the seat size and how much reclining you have, and what you were suited in the food, where your toilet was, and on and on. I mean, just went on and on and on. You know, how big the screen was on your seat and so forth. And these are like Airbus 383, whatever, it's a big one. Okay. And I just thought to myself, in my lifetime, I never would have believed that there is a lengthy, 5,000-6,000 word discussion on the creature comforts of Vietnamese airline.
Well, that's what trade does.
I know
it can happen in 1 year with the proper controls removed.
This is, and what I'm seeing is, though, here's a country that literally was nothing, that invaded the commies, people killed, the helicopters are flying off in 1975 and so forth, which is, 35 years ago, whatever. And then you look at 35 years ago, Venezuela was the richest country in South America, and now you have to drink poop water. Look at the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
And look at
Can you got to ask yourself, gee willikers, what is the underlying cause of this, that you would say? And do you
think capitalism,
the government? Do you think that the government?
Even China is embracing? We should read those numbers again. I'll pull them up maybe next time about the amount that China has come into the free market.
Yeah, right.
Privatized.
Yeah,
it's staggering.
Well, I just when I was reading this, and I thought this should be so obvious. God, you people who are trying to run the United States, and you're going to run us right dead into the toilet. I mean, it's going to be like before I'm dead, I won't have any drinking water for the way you guys are doing. So
I'm going to get one of those straws.
That's right.
For the first time, the number of Chinese millionaires has passed the number of American millionaires.
I saw that. What about billionaires, I wonder?
Probably not.
Probably not yet. Okay, but you're catching up.
Yeah.
Of course, but yeah, that's amazing. Okay, the last thing I've got here.
Okay.
This is a Florida thing. And the reason I brought this up is because it has to show you the tone of the article. And to be honest with you, I forget where this was, U.S. News, that's not even around anymore. Conservative gadfly Loomer outraises Dem incumbent Frankel in a House race. Now here in Florida, this guy Frankel is like a 5 or 6 year term Democrat in some place down there. And what's happened is she's outraised him in money for this seat down there. And she is a Republican, but she's pretty conservative, to put it mildly. She's young. I think she's 26 or something. Okay. But she's I didn't got a lot of money, but I didn't expect to raise more than a 4-term incumbent Democrat. Now what's happened is Uber and Lyft have banned her in 2017 after she loudly complained on social media about Muslims driving for either ride-share service. Twitter punted her from its platform last year after she used her account to attack Representative Ilhan Omar, Minnesota Democrat, and so forth. And Facebook booted her in May for being in violation of the company's rules against dangerous individuals and organizations. The thing about it, she's a gadfly. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's the one who handcuffed her to Twitter's headquarters.
Oh, okay.
That's the one, or wherever. Okay. And I mean, she's a real activist. I mean, she's a real, and she reminds me a little bit of, which is kind of interesting in a way. She is the she is the exact mirror opposite of AOC.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it,
She's
her
a conservative, right?
her gadflying is gladflyness or whatever it is pretty right wing stuff.
Okay.
If you would consider, and I don't mean to impugn the right wing this way, but she's pretty smart and everything, but she's she's very, very traditional, but she's young, and it'll be interesting to see if she wins. But as I say, this article pilloried her for this kind of stuff, and it's interesting.
She can expect a warm response from the press, I'm sure.
Well, she's already got, it's really, blowtorchy. More.
Right, yeah,
And,
exactly.
yeah,
Flambeau.
That's right.
That's right.
No, but what's interesting is apparently in this particular district, there's people that are saying, go. We're tired of our Democrat guy, and we want to see, a traditional, this is a traditional, gung-ho American person, and she's out raising. So it'll be see in a year, in 11, 12, 13 months or whatever it is. So
Okay.
that's mine today.
All right. Well, I only got a couple of things here. Of course, you saw Lynchgate, right?
Which one is that? No.
This is Trump came out and said this.
Oh yes.
Inquisition is like the Inquisition. The impeachment is like an inquisition, which is like a witch hunt, which is like a lynching.
Right.
And as soon as he said lynching, they were like, "Oh, racist!"
Racist.
Yes. And
So what happened immediately?
Everybody came out and said that. There were fights all over the internet about it, and it's just funny because they've run out of metaphors for his impending doom.
But what happened, and I know this is one of those things you're not supposed to do. What happened was they went back and found.
Oh yes.
I mean, hundreds.
Biden
and Hillary and everybody, and
of course.
And even Clarence Thomas, this is a high-tech lynching. And
Exactly.
it's used all the time.
Right.
And so this has become like this is a meme that you can use it for anything.
Right. Now, look, this was an attempt for some people to own the word again.
Right.
Make it so that you can't criticize them in some way with that metaphor. You can't use that metaphor
Anymore, right.
It's hard. Whoopi was like, yeah, that's, oh my God, when I hear a white man use that metaphor, what happens, Whoopi? Are you frightened that they're going to lynch you? No, come on. Be realistic. It's a metaphor. Everybody knows that. So... But it was just funny. For like 24 hours, this was the new impeachable offense.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just guy can't
lynchable.
Guy can't drop a deuce without someone saying it hit him.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this I had to mention. Two students in Connecticut were arrested for speech. They were arrested for apparently ridiculing someone of another race. And apparently there's some statute, which is CGS 53-37, and it is outlawed in Connecticut the ability, or you're not allowed to have, when I read the statute, it said something like your advertisement, which is an interesting phrasing. These kids were like walking down the street and somebody filmed them from a window. That's what it looked like on the video. But it was just weird because now they're facing charges in the United States.
I'm sorry.
They said N-word or something. I don't know.
Okay.
I couldn't tell because they bleeped it out. But the point is that there's a video of some people in Connecticut saying some bad words, and that was interpreted as ridicule under this statute, and they were arrested for their speech.
Now,
for the content of their speech, which is the actual definition of what the First Amendment is there to protect. And it's just interesting that it's like we're sort of following the UK's lead.
So now,
here.
who was harmed?
Well, society, I guess. Yes, there was nobody within earshot.
Well, there must have been somebody because it was on the film.
Well, right, but what I mean is the alleged victim, the person that about whom they were talking, was not within earshot.
Okay.
And so this is a third party person, and it's just. It's astonishing. I'm hoping that they get released and the statute gets overturned quickly. Maybe it was a new statute, and then I didn't do the research and check just because I half don't believe it, the story itself.
Yeah.
And so that's why I studied the actual statute. It's just like, what? Wait, what? And then in the article, it said something like Massachusetts lawmakers were considering a $200 fine for the word bitch.
I saw that.
Yes.
And the
It's like, what?
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
so we're talking about a dog, right?
Well, I guess.
We're talking about a female dog.
Well, you were. You thought you were.
I thought I was.
No. $200.
That's right.
And
This is my bitch, and she
Yeah,
won't go with your guy.
That's it. Up $200. I don't know. I'm just saying is, if that stuff is real, it's like, what are you doing? I mean, remember the First Amendment. We just went through this. LeBron James, the whole thing. We're allowed. You can't even share ideas if you can't have free speech. So, I mean, that's
what I thought was interesting. Apparently, the word bitch has become, so common now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, it wasn't not even when I was already grown up. You didn't use that word very much at all. You certainly didn't call anybody a bitch.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, I think, and the way that happens, and the way it has happened, a lot of words have come out and become in common usage these days. It used to be vulgar, and that is because in certain places they're not.
Right.
And so, if we say, bloody, something's bloody over
Right.
here, if you do that in England, they're like,
Whoa.
hey,
Yeah.
watch out.
Yeah.
Watch your mouth, but to us, so you see that on the internet. There's this mixing of all these words, and
I remember when I was in Sweden, and I learned a curse word, and the curse word in Sweden that really sends people off the top is devil.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and it's jävlar, something like that. And people, when I first said it, they go, "Whoa, foreigner, come over here! This is cultural appropriation. What do you
Right.
get out of here?" So
it's just.
they were panic stricken that I used this word.
Real quick update on Iraq. U.S. liberated Iraq is now experiencing peace and prosperity. Oh wait, I meant to say experiencing protests met with live fire.
Okay,
That's
same
what I
thing.
meant to say. Yes, it's so close.
Yeah,
so close.
How can you
we,
not?
we gave them that beautiful constitution which guarantees everyone in the country health care. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Like in Venezuela, where they have.
oh, hey, guaranteed. Guaranteed. It's in the Constitution. It doesn't get any more guaranteed than that.
No, it doesn't. I mean,
That is a guaranteed right.
That's right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's,
And so-
the Iraqi government shall make no
Here's your health care.
law
We'll
impinging
take
health care.
care of your health is what
That's
we're
right.
going to do.
You got no more health now, go you made.
That's it. You don't even have to worry about that anymore.
That's right.
Because it's gone. Okay. Berlin, always ahead of the curve,
Okay.
freezes rents for 5 years.
What a bunch of loons.
In an effort to combat housing costs, have decided to freeze rents. What could possibly go wrong?
What again? This is one of those things when you here you are, you're Bernie and you're Warren and you're looking at Venezuela and saying, well,
How about you
They did-
looking at every other time
there's
rent
ever
control?
been rent control.
Right.
It is. And it's interesting because you look at the distortions in the market that occur. One of the things that, for instance, New York, of course, is and San Francisco, both are places that have had rent controls for years. And in New York, it has been endemic. I mean, I think the rent controls stems from the Second World War.
Okay.
Because people, I forget exactly what it was. There was other ways people couldn't afford it, and because the rents were going up and so forth. But so what people would do, I don't know if they do it anymore, but you'd read the obituaries.
Sure.
And you'd be first. You'd race over there. I remember when I was doing garage sales, for instance. I'd call out of here at 6 o'clock in the morning to see if I could be first at the garage sale. Well, that's what they did with these. You read the obituary and you go, whoa, and you go knock on the door and say, can I take your?
And of course, even more than that, what they're going to do is they're going to get in there on their rent, and then they're going to sublet illegally.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah.
for the real cash.
Right.
And so, I mean, the market will chip away at it, but it's just interesting that the government's going to go ahead and stick their big fat foot right into the renting market.
Well, it's interesting because
So-
I'm sure that the sublet is illegal on
Sure,
rent control,
sure.
but that doesn't stop anybody from
No.
that. If anybody shows up here, tell them your name is Bob.
That's it.
And
You're
and
Bob.
that you're not.
That's
and you're
right.
paying,
And by the way, you can't get mail here. Get a PO box.
That's right.
I mean, it's just like, really? Yeah, I mean, property prices instantly crashed in Berlin. Deutsche Wohnen, Southeast or whatever. Berlin's largest apartment owner lost a fifth of its value since the announcement.
You know what people don't understand is when you look at and there was a book 20 years ago written by Philip K. Howard or something called "The Death of Common Sense," and they were talking about the rules and regulations for landlords. And there was actually a movie about that too. That's something else entirely. But when you have this, of course, as prices go up for other stuff, you can't afford to repair the place.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. I mean, the price of, you'd like to replace the window, but the window, it costs $10 when you put it in there, and now it's $50.
Right.
And something, but you've got no money coming from rent.
You can't raise the prices. This is just like California's environmental protections and regulations on their power companies.
Yeah, I mean,
somebody said what you do is you just add a fee. One of the comments was, well, you just add a fee. It's not part of your rent.
Right.
You have an extra $100 a month maintenance fee.
Right. That's exactly right. And we've seen that here. They have in our electric bills. They don't raise the rates. They have a surcharge.
Right. There you go. So, and of course, they make criminals out of everybody when they do that. So, let's see. All right, and that is it, really.
Yeah, we're out.
The Fed's liquidity crisis continues.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Was it another 80 billion a week or something? Or
I don't know. I keep seeing different numbers.
I've been seeing too. But once again, they're not calling it QE.
No, yes, totally not. Totally not.
We're not adding money to the base stock here because we're calling it another name.
That's it. Yeah.
You just gotta let.
I heard 60 billion a month. This is from a J.P. Morgan group, and they said that the problems in the overnight loan market is regulation. They said they're not allowed to profit from the liquidity crisis that happens because their speculation is outlawed on those liquidity markets to some extent.
God, what's amazing is, of course, that speculation is what can make the world go round. I mean, without speculation, you have nothing.
Well, what you have are wild swings because people can't accommodate you because they can't make any money doing it, so why bother trying?
Yeah.
So, but it's just, we'll see where that leads.
We'll come back on. We're going to be. This is good. Well, this is good. I thought you were not going to be here on Sunday, but you will be.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm here.
So we will continue our updates and everything. So tell your friends and like us. Do whatever you want to do. And
these tracks brought to you by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate it. I am Counselor Curtis. This has been the Jimmy Doane Show. Thank you.
Get your straw.
Yeah, get your life straw. If you're from Venezuela, can we start a Kickstarter?
Can we call up and see if we can get some Jimmy Doane logos on those straws and order 1,000 of them?
Oh, that would be a good idea. Yeah, sell those suckers.
Yeah. Suckers.
Yeah, we'll sell them for a mere 2 million bolivars.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's in bolivars.
So strong bolivars. So, all right. Thanks so much. See you soon.